Today I'm going to talk to you about the image that's up in front of you. And this is Time magazine from 1982. And in that year, Time named the computer the person of the year. If you stop and think about that, that was 32 years ago. And the point that I want to make tonight is that was the first half of the chessboard. And the point of a chessboard is you start to hit exponential growth when you get to the second half of the chessboard. And that's where we're headed, really today going forward. And if you think about that as it relates to technology, there are three themes that are driving this. One is pervasive connectivity, the other is big data, and finally it's platforms and technologies. There are kind of 6 points I want to walk you through today to help you explain this concept of exponential growth. One is explaining the second half of the chessboard, follow that up with an example of exponential growth, and then talk a little bit about 200 years of technology, the last 20 years of technology, and then wrap it up with examples of adapting to changes of exponential growth. So if you think of a chessboard and you place a grain of rice on the first cube and you start to double it, 1 goes to 2, 2 goes to 4, and so on. When you hit the first half of the chessboard, you really haven't seen a dramatic increase in the number of rice. But in the second half of the chessboard, you really start to see exponential growth. So when you get to the 64th cube here on the chessboard, you've actually reached 18 quintillion pieces of rice. And to put that in perspective, that is the square surface area that would wrap the Earth 2 times. It's over 200 billion tons of rice. So it's really astonishing to think about that concept of exponential growth. The second point I'll make is when you look at this image here, there is a renowned theorist and technologist that works at Google, and his name is Ray Kurzweil. And Ray's example that he likes to use when he talks about exponential growth is around the sequencing of the human genome that we all hear about. And the point of this story is when the team that was working on the sequencing was half of the way done from a time perspective, all of the skeptics were looking at the project and they were only 1% through with the project. So what the skeptics didn't realize was this concept of exponential growth. So that 1% actually doubled 7 times and they finished the project on time and within the scope. So now I want to take that concept of exponential growth and do a look back over my family business. So I'm the 6th generation working for my family, and my son Hayden will be the 7th. And we've been around for almost 200 years, and it's interesting to see the evolution of technology through these different economies. So you can think about a technology as simple as the cotton gin, and it forced our family to go from literally trading cotton and wheat. This is a picture of one of my relatives trading cotton and wheat to manufacturing. And then if you fast forward in the manufacturing economy, you had things like electricity, the telephone. We made a shift into banking away from manufacturing because of what was happening. Fast forward to almost to today, which is the service economy. You had the personal computer, Google. We started shifting to investing in technology companies. And the point today as you go past the services economy is that we're now in the software economy. And what we really look for are these disruptive changes in exponential growth. So the next slide is a summary slide that'll show you kind of that evolution as you look through all 4 changes. And it's interesting to think about the changes in economies because you start to see an exponential growth because of a certain technology that plateaus, grows, and plateaus. What some people don't realize is you get horizontal technologies and vertical technologies. And what I mean by that is a vertical technology is the washing machine. It didn't necessarily impact a lot of industries. It doesn't help banking or finance. But what Carnegie did with iron and making it more useful with steel is it was first supposed to be used for railroads, then it was used in skyscrapers, ships, bridges. So it was able to be applied in a horizontal manner. So now I want to bring it to the next point, which is the last 20 years of my personal career. In the last 20 years, it's really interesting. If you look back one slide, this is an ecosystem of technology companies. And the technology companies, the concept of exponential growth actually applies there. So I've seen companies that I've either worked for or invested in, got companies like PayPal and Facebook and Google. What happens is a spidering effect. So you get this exponential growth because entrepreneurs and investors and individuals tend to follow each other in clusters. So people start to leave Facebook and start other companies, and they start other companies, and it gets to the second half of the chessboard. So I'll bring that now to today when we talk about the three themes, which are pervasive connectivity, big data, and platforms and technologies. Now, when you think about these, I think a lot of people understand big data and a lot of people understand platforms and technologies. But pervasive connectivity is somewhat of a new term. The CEO of Cisco says that by 2020, there'll be a $19 trillion impact, which is just a staggering number. Now, what pervasive connectivity is it's our smartphones, our computers, the drone that Amazon's going to send to drop something off at TEDx next year, the speeding light that's right up the street. Everything is connected all the time. And the point of these three themes is that if we can all rally around them and understand that they're happening, there's a lot of exponential growth that can happen. If you go to the next slide, this is an unemployment line. And I'm not naive enough to think that because of all this change, there aren't negative impacts that can have. So there are obviously sectors and industries that are going to be disrupted. And the point to the audience tonight is if you can realize that this exponential growth is happening, you can actually take advantage of it, because that's where the real growth and the real opportunity is. So the last point tonight, as we go to the next slide, is there's actually a renowned chess player. So this is Garry Kasparov. Now, in 1996, he was the world chess champion, and he was defeated by a computer. It was actually a computer called Deep Blue that IBM created. And this really, just created a ripple effect across the chess community because they couldn't believe that he'd been beaten by a computer. So the next year in 1997, they had a rematch and he was defeated again. So what he did was he actually took this and he was able to adapt. So it's a new technology. What did he do? He actually formed a new form of chess called advanced chess. So he combined software with human intellect. And his whole thesis was, what he noticed was software was very good at tactical movements, but it couldn't replicate what makes us human and what makes us individuals, which is the concept of high-level strategy. So it's what a good friend of mine, Joe Lonsdale, calls man and machine symbiosis. So if you take software technologies and you're able to help them or have the softwares and technologies actually take care of tasks, we can do what we do well, which is think of strategy and think of high-level ideas. So in the next slide, I started the presentation with this image, and I'll end with the same image. And the point is, you had a computer that was named the Person of the Year 32 years ago. And my point to you is that was the first half of the chessboard. And you have three themes: big data, pervasive connectivity, and platforms and marketplaces that are really driving exponential growth in the second half of the chessboard. Thank you.